Like what this government official, insert government official from anywhere, okay? What this government official is saying is just undeniably incorrect. It's just a lie.
What does unleashing hell look like? I mean, you've already seen under, as you say, the Biden administration, daily death tolls of around 300-400 people a day.
You will see exactly what it means.
You end the occupation, you end the resistance to the occupation, because Hamas or any other militant formation only exists against the apartheid state that is doing an occupation on Palestinians. That is so crazy.
Now to the Middle East, and Israel strikes on what it says are Hezbollah targets in Lebanon after several rockets were fired from Lebanon into Israel. ABC's Matt Rivers is there in Tel Aviv with the latest overnight. Good morning, Matt. And Israel is also sending more troops into Gaza.
That's right, Gio. Good morning to you. An intense 24 hours here across the region. Israelis starting their work week with sirens as a missile launched from Yemen set off alert systems.
Oh, man. They have valid security concerns again in southern Lebanon. That's crazy.
Across the country, the IDF intercepting it, though, before it arrived. This, as the IDF says, it is once again expanding the presence of ground troops in Gaza, ordering new evacuations as more and more troops retake parts of Gaza. People now forced to pick up and move once again with no real safe place to go. It is a broad operation that has moved a lot faster than many were expecting, and it has left a lot of people dead. The death toll, according to the Gaza Health Ministry, well over 600 just since Tuesday, including at least 180 children, says UNICEF. And today, health officials saying the death toll since the war began, now more than 50,000 people. And at the northern border with Israel, projectiles launched from southern Lebanon for the first time since a ceasefire brokered last year between Hezbollah and Israel, none doing any damage. Israel responding with massive airstrikes, killing at least 7 people. Hezbollah, though, denying that they fired the projectiles. An Israeli official also saying they're not sure which group is responsible, but the threat of escalation wit certainly now higher after this ceasefire had largely held up for months.
Yeah, the whole region on edge. Matt Rivers for us. Thank you.
Israel's basically ripped up the ceasefire agreement that was signed, that was put forward by the Americans. That envisaged going forward to the second phase of the ceasefire, negotiating a permanent end to the war.
What have we been doing for the last 3 weeks?
Well, not negotiating.
Hold on.
We were meant to start a long time ago, and the Israeli team never went out.
Absolutely no.
The fact is that this government has never wanted to reach an end to the war, isn't it?
It's awesome. Just like lying is OP everywhere, baby. Not just in Turkey, not just in America, certainly in Israel as well. Lying is always and forever overpowered. Lying is OP, please nerf. Just the argument is always just nah. Like everybody knows this is the case, except for Americans, because Americans don't actually, get to hear real, truthful information about what's going on in Israel. People in Israel know this is the case. They know this is the case, and either they like it because they like what Netanyahu's doing, or they're further to the right than Netanyahu and they like that he's like ripping it up. Or they hate it and they protest against it because they're like, I don't have an issue with like bombing Gaza, but I want my family members to, be extracted. So very strange stuff in this day and age where I feel like 95% of what I talk about is just me constantly going, this is just objectively untrue. Like what this government official, insert government official from anywhere, okay? What this government official is saying is just undeniably incorrect. It's just a lie.
Washington to sit with Witkoff and with Trump to build a framework that will actually talk about what Israel needs are. And that's very important because at the end of the day, we have to bring back the security and the safety of our children.
Netanyahu has his own priorities. It looks as if the hostages are not the top of his priorities. And this is why things are not being done the way the majority of Israelis would have wanted it to be done.
Most of the hostage families are against resuming the war. Most of the Israeli public is against resuming the war. Why is your government doing it?
None of the so-called facts you just stated are correct. Some families are against. I don't judge the families, not at all.
Yeah, they're yeah, the pussy families, they just they are selfish. They want they do not want the war against babies of terror to continue. So-called facts. None of your so-called facts are correct. No, this is not the UN drawing guy. This is a different guy.
We have been trying for the past 3 weeks to have a sort of negotiation with Hamas. It's understood that they're not going to release hostages without staying in Gaza. Staying in Gaza is not something we are willing to let them do. Therefore, there's no other way.
You killed 50,000 Palestinians in Gaza. You've destroyed much of the Gaza Strip. If that hasn't been enough to eliminate and destroy Hamas, what on earth makes you think it's possible to achieve militarily now?
Yeah, it's because you can't eliminate an idea. It's not Hamas. You want to eliminate the Palestinian people. You cannot eliminate an entire people's need for emancipation. That's the problem. It doesn't have to be Hamas. You can call it anything else. Okay? That guy's a sexual assaulter, by the way, and in a religious cult. I mean, yeah, the religious cult is the Likud party. A bibist, a Likudnik. Yeah, just common Likud member of the Knesset. Just Likud things. These guys are the center right in Israel, by the way. It's fantastic. Fantastic country. It's really cool. It's so funny also when I talk about this shit, people are like, wow, that's really anti-Semitic of you. It's like, dude, I say the exact same shit about American politics too. We have our own version of this shit happening in the United States of America as well. It's just like, it's identical because Israel is attached to the hip to the United States of America. It's basically, you know, it's America's vestige.
There's a American plan of President Trump saying
which has been widely rejected by Gazans and the Arab states.
I don't care. I care about
I don't care. I don't care. What are they going to do about it? We bomb? America says yes, bomb more. Okay. Haha. Terror babies. Terror. Babies of terror. Babies of terror. We are killing them. We are killing the babies of terror dead. Yeah.
Israeli interests. I don't care about the interests of people in Gaza. I don't care the interests about people in London. I care about my family. I care about my people that were butchered, slaughtered, and raped here not too long ago.
It has been proven that only military pressure brings a good deal.
A year and a half of very intense war with a lot of civilian casualties in Gaza shows that it's not possible to militarily alone defeat Hamas.
A year and a half under the Biden administration that forced us to fight Hamas with one hand.
You know what's kind of crazy, by the way? I was having a conversation with someone last night where I said the Palestinian literacy rate in the West Bank and Gaza is higher than the Israeli literacy rate. And he just would not believe me. I was like, look it up, man. Just Google it. Like, it's available. People can't believe it. Like, it's like one of my favorite facts to pull when talking to white supremacists, when debating or arguing with like a racist person, is to tell them that the highest educated population, like ethnic group in the United States of America, are Nigerians. They can't comprehend it, right? There's a material reason for it, but like they don't even want to scratch that. They don't even want to scratch the surface where they go, nah, that's not the case because no way. It's true. People get so mad. People get so mad about that. And it's the same thing here. People don't want to believe it. They're like, I don't agree with you on the statement. The Palestinian literacy rate for adults across the board is 97.8, is 98%. The Israeli literacy rate is 92%. Okay? But when I have this conversation with someone where I tell them that, they're like, there's just no way. There's just no fucking way. I don't believe it. What leads you to believe that that is, you know, how can you object to a fact? This is so totally getting clipped out of context. I mean, it's the truth. What do you mean getting clipped out of context? I think broadly, one of the biggest issues nowadays is the fact that people just want to operate on vibes. They don't care. Okay? Yeah, it's because of the Haredim and isolated communities. Yes, that is part of the reason. Nice trivia, but what does that have to do with anything? The broader point that I'm making, listen to the point I'm making, which is that people, by and large, and educated people as well, like well-educated people, would rather confirm their biases than actually seek out the truth. And it is one of the most frustrating things that I encounter on a daily basis as a political commentator. It is incredibly frustrating. It is incredibly annoying. And I think it's alarming. Like, we have gotten worse at this. We've gotten worse at like critically examining things and having an overall healthy hunger for the truth. We don't have it anymore. It is really, really shitty. And perhaps the reason why, especially in the United States of America, why we have this issue is because of this. The Israeli literacy rate for adults is 92%. The Palestinian literacy rate for adults is 98%. The American literacy rate for adults is 79%.
But to feed them with the other, so I can tell you that now the war is going to be handled in a totally different way. With the Trump administration, with the backing of America, Trump himself said numerous times that all hell should break on Gaza if they're not bringing back all hostages.
What does unleashing hell look like? I mean, you've already seen under, as you say, the Biden administration, daily death tolls of around 300-400 people a day.
You will see exactly what it means.
This terrorist organization, it's not just holding, I mean, if it still holds civilian power, within a couple of months, it can regroup another group and recruit more terrorists and form a more powerful army to fight us. So we can't just fight it from a military perspective, but also from a civilian point of view and dismantle their civilian power.
Do you think it is possible to militarily defeat Hamas, dismantle its civilian infrastructure then?
Absolutely.
You think that is possible?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, but how many more lives is that gonna take of ordinary Palestinians as well?
It can be with 0 lives if Hamas tomorrow take down their arm and surrender and bring back our hostages. 0. We're dealing with a terrorist organization, and as much as they're sacrificing and hate the Jews and want to completely obliterate us and our communities, they don't care for the lives of Palestinians either. That responsibility is on the hands of Hamas and Hamas only. If they
Are you comfortable with 400 people being killed a day, 500 people? Is that?
Yeah, you don't want to hear the answer from her. The answer is yes. Actually, the answer is no. She's like, I want it to be 1,000 people killed a day. I think that we're not killing enough children. We are simply not killing enough children, enough terror babies.
Something that you're willing to countenance going forward to try and destroy Hamas?
This equivalence is absolutely absurd. You think I like that? You think?
Oh, you hate it. Oh, damn. She hates it, but she just knows it's just something that they gotta do, you know? Oh, how dare you? How dare you suggest that I enjoy the sights of baby murder? How dare you? I mean, it's really horrible that we have to do these things. We have to kill as many babies as possible. How dare you? I mean, you guys know the reason why I say this, by the way, the median age in 2020 in Gaza, I don't even know what the latest stats on this looks like, but the median age in 2020 in Gaza was 18, okay? 40% of the Gazan population is 14-year-olds or younger. They're killing children mostly. There's a reason why, when you look at the stats, when you look at the actual stats of like who they're killing, whenever they bomb something, it's like mostly kids and women and the elderly. Close to 80%. It's it. Yeah, our greatest ally. Here it is. Israel recently committed the largest child massacre in its history. 200 children and 100 women were killed in one day. Altogether, about 400 civilians were killed, and the number of the dead is not yet final. These numbers are not reported in the Israeli media, and if they are, it's always minimized in an outrageous manner. The only time you hear these numbers get reported in Israeli media, as a matter of fact, that's also not true. What do you call it? Haaretz did report on it, like literally use that term. I think this might actually be a Haaretz article, as a matter of fact. But the only other channel that I saw in Israel report on the numbers was, I think it was like Channel 14 or something, like one of those fucking pro Benjamin Netanyahu channels that reported on it by saying 400 terrorists dead. That's the crazy double standard. That's the crazy hypocrisy of Israeli media, which is that Israeli media will literally use the Hamas-backed Palestinian Health Ministry numbers whenever they want to talk about how many people that they killed, but they'll just say all of the people that we killed were terrorists. Do they even have free press? No, they don't. Of course they don't. They have a military censor.
Think I wanted that? Israel wish it was the 6th of October now. We didn't want this war. We were forced into this war, not just by Hamas, by 7 entities from Iran, from Hezbollah, from Syria, from Iraq, from Yemen.
You're in favor of resuming the war or against it?
It's not.
My goat. There. Yay, look at that. Look who it is. Friend of the show. Friend of the freaking show. Dr. Ofer Kasif.
Oh, it's a genocide, and obviously I'm against it because I'm against any kind of war crime.
Your view is very much a tiny minority view amongst Jewish Israelis right now. Why are you losing the argument?
I don't think we're losing the argument. You know, in order to lose an argument, there must be a counter-argument. There's none. And you are right. It seems to be the majority, at least in the Knesset. I'm not so sure anymore about the streets. If you listen carefully to what I've been saying, you can see that there's no argument there. Only incitement, revenge, sentiments.
Remember when people were saying that your reporting was inaccurate, that Israel would never bomb Khan Yunis? Wait, what? Who said that my reporting was inaccurate? Of course. Israel blew up every hospital since the Al Ahli hospital bombing, the courtyard bombing that took place. Israel never actually gave one single piece of correct information on why it wasn't actually Israeli rockets that blew up the courtyard. Every single person that talked about the Al Ahli hospital bombing campaign and said that I was wrong to assume that Israel did it were objectively wrong. Israel blew up every fucking hospital. Israel took over the Turkish Gaza Friendship Hospital, which was the only cancer ward in Gaza. They overtook it. They used it as a military station. And yesterday they blew it up after they were done with it. And they said, well, no one can use the hospital anyway because we had overtaken it militarily. When I began my conversion process still going, the first and most important lesson I learned from diaspora, and especially people who lived in Israel, was that the government always lies. That's just the standard. Yeah. I mean, every government lies. Every government lies. Of course governments lie. The Chinese government lies. The American government lies. The Turkish government lies. Every government lies. The Israeli government lies all the time as well. Just simply calling that out is not anti-Semitic. I would say that the Israeli government, on the other hand, lies in the most egregious ways possible, in the most like easily identifiably wrong ways possible. That's the major difference, because there's no opposition in the Western world to the Israeli government's lies. They just never counter it. There are more critical reporting against the Israeli government in Israel than the United States of America. Our mainstream press is always running defense for Israel in ways that are more egregious than Israeli outlets. Israeli Zionist leftist media person Guy Meroz last night on Channel 14's talk show Hapatriotim. Now we need to focus on one thing only: to stop the war, to bring back the hostages, and then, as far as I'm concerned, then Netanyahu can destroy all of Gaza. Oh wow, I love that. Wonderful wonderful Israeli leftist here. No, the only Israeli leftists are the guys like Dr. Ofer Kasif, the Mezarvot people that are conscientious objectors. Dipshits like this, like liberal Zionists like this, also want death and destruction upon the entirety of the Palestinian people. They're not fucking real. That's why I say liberal Zionists are like saying you're a liberal fucking Nazi. Zionism is a Nazi ideology. Okay, it is identical to Nazi ideology. It's an exterminationist ideology. It's one that is born out of an ethno-religious supremacist settler colonial state. It is there to justify the existence of an ethno-religious supremacist settler colonial state that is currently an apartheid and also currently doing a genocide. Okay? This is why saying someone is like a liberal in Israel and still a Zionist is like saying someone is a fucking liberal Nazi. Isn't what you said all illegal under that anti-Semitism bill? Yeah, I don't give a fuck. Okay, I don't care if something is illegal. I'm always going to say the truth, regardless of whether or not there is suppression against saying the truth. The fuck are we doing here? You can try to hide the truth. You can try to shelter people from the truth. You can turn around and lie to the best of your ability. You can make it impossible. You can try to prosecute people for saying the truth. But you know what the reality is? The truth still remains. This is the truth. It does not matter. It doesn't matter what you do. You just simply cannot change the truth.
ועכשיו אנחנו צריכים להתרכז רק בדבר אחד, לא לבזבז זמן על בנט הצודקת, ולא לבזבז זמן על קטרגייט, שזה מעניין סליחה, לא נעים להגיד פה מה זה מעניין, להתרכז רק באיך, כנראה, הברירה היחידה, להפסיק את המלחמה, להביא את החטופים, ואחר כך שמצדי יהרוס את כל עזה.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, Netanyahu can destroy all of Gaza once we get the hostages out. Nice, man. Thank you. That's the wokest guy in Israel.
Hatred, fear, that's not an argument.
How do you think you deal with the issue of Hamas? Because a lot of Israelis are concerned about the prospect of them remaining in power in Gaza.
It is a big problem, and we should find a way to make sure that Hamas is not in power in Gaza. Right now, we should bring back the hostages.
Great idea. It's called ending the occupation. That's it. You end the occupation, and there is no more need for Hamas to exist or any sort of military formation that will be antagonistic and, dare I say, violent towards Israel. You end the occupation, you end the resistance to the occupation, because Hamas or any other militant formation only exists against the apartheid state that is doing an occupation on Palestinians, destroying Palestinian homes, destroying Palestinian lives. That's it. That's it.
Hostages, and it includes ending the war, and we must work with the international community and with all the partners that we have in order to find a way to oust Hamas from Gaza. Palestinians, Hamas. This must be done, but the priority now.
Like, this is it. You either kill every single Palestinian or forcibly ethnically displace them from the Gaza Strip and then also the West Bank, which is what these guys want at the end of the fucking day, by the way. Make no mistake. They all want this. Okay? Some people will say, oh, I don't want this. But like post-October 7, a lot of the liberal Zionists that kept talking about like how dangerous the West Bank settlers were and whatever are totally on board with permanent exterminationist policies. Because there's no other way. There is no other way to stop this. There's no other way to... You can't convince people to like a military occupation that kills them. This is just not going to happen. That's not true. What's not true? Most Israelis aren't like that, though. I don't know, man. That's not nuanced. Oh, my God. Consistently since October 7, I have gone back on this broadcast and looked at Israeli polling on the matter. Consistently since October 7, for the past 16 months, where the Israeli occupying force has completely destroyed the Gaza Strip, the Israeli population that is segmented by their own demographic terms, not mine, as Jewish or Arab, okay, Jew and non-Jew, Jewish Israelis, which comprise 75% of the Israeli population, want more death and destruction in Gaza, almost to like 90%. Okay? I agree with like 99% of your commentary on this, except, okay, I keep saying the average Israelis want Gaza burn. You keep saying the average Israelis want Gaza burn, and that's not true. Show me a poll that is inconsistent with that reality, and I will say I'm wrong. Israel in and of itself, regardless of the approval rating of the continued war, because here, this is the honest position, okay? Or not this is the honest position, sorry. The guy that we just saw, the liberal Zionist position, the most woke position, okay? The most woke, like, permissible position is we need to stop the war. We need to stop the war for now, which is not a genocide, it's just a war, to get every single hostage out. And then after that, you can burn it all to the ground if for all I care. That is the opposition to Benjamin Netanyahu within the confines of permissibility. There are real anti-Zionists in Israel. There are anti-Zionist Jews in Israel. I've basically interviewed all of them. Okay? I think the nuance here is that they just want Palestinians gone, not necessarily dead. Oh, sorry. Oh, I didn't understand. They just want to like force them out of the land, like ethnically displace them. Like they want to ethnically cleanse the land, but in a non-violent way, and not in a way where not in a way that that kills them all. So what happens when people don't want to leave? You keep saying average Israeli wants Gaza. Russian immigrants and Arabs and Africans are very much pro-Palestine here. Dog, what are you talking about? I already, what are you saying? I already mentioned that 25% of the Israeli population is non-Jewish, according to Israel's own demographics. 25%. Their attitude towards burning Gaza is very different than the Jewish Israeli population's overwhelming support for burning Gaza to the fucking ground or mass exterminating and ethnically cleansing Gaza. There was a recent poll that came out also saying adding Russian immigrants into that equation is really funny. I don't think that the Russian immigrants in Israel are not on board with what Israel is doing. That's crazy. Arabs and Africans, on the other hand, like the non-Jewish population in Israel, yes, they are not in support of they're not in support of what Israel is doing. This is true, but they're 25% of the population, and they're basically de facto second-class citizens. You know this already. You're an Israeli chatter that is in this community. You know, I know that like you can't get access to Al Jazeera anymore, but you still watch me, so you probably see it. Yeah. Oh, this is the thing that I was talking about. Yeah. 70% of Israelis support the second phase of the hostage ceasefire deal, right? 70% of the Israelis support the second phase of the hostage ceasefire deal. Having said that, which would require Israel to pull out, okay, which would require the Israeli troops to pull out of Gaza. When asked directly about even Trump's plan of mass displacement of Palestinians, Israelis also have, Israeli Jews specifically have, the same exact attitude. The reason why they want to continue with the pullout is because they want all the hostages out. That's it. The reason why they want to continue the ceasefire is because they want to pull the hostages out. Can you please give a definition of anti-Zionism in the context of not asking for the removal of the people in Israel? Yes, I believe that currently, I look at things honestly, I believe that currently there is already one singular state. It's Israel. It is an apartheid state. Israel dominates the Gaza Strip and is doing a genocide on the Gaza Strip. Israel also has Bantustans in the West Bank. Israel has illegally occupied the West Bank since 1967, militarily. There's a shift happening here since Trump is in office. Right-wingers here are even turning on Netanyahu. I haven't seen that. But my point is that there is already one state, and the two-state solution has been a lie that right-wing Israeli governments and even centrist Israeli governments have basically been using to continue settling the West Bank, which is what they did. I think it was like 80,000 people living in East Jerusalem mostly in the 90s. After the so-called peace process, that number shot up in 2025 to 750,000. And not just in East Jerusalem, but East Jerusalem and just West Bank proper. 750,000 Jews live in the West Bank. 750,000 settlers live on occupied Palestinian territory. And that happened over the peace process, the so-called peace process, as every single government kept kicking the can down the line over and over again. So the notion of a two-state solution would require 750,000 settlers to be removed. That is never going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You have to be realistic. So the anti-Zionist position that I have as a one-stater is to implement by force, if necessary, a singular, solitary, secular state. And this position is not necessarily popular amongst Palestinians, and it's not necessarily popular amongst Israelis either. But it is my position. You can have a disagreement with that all you want. With or without the right to return? Yes, of course, with the right to return. With the right to return, with reparations, with a Truth and Reconciliation Committee that needs to be implemented to prosecute war criminals. And yes, even people who have engaged in war crimes on the Palestinian side as well. Okay? Now, of course, when resisting against an apartheid regime, the crimes that you commit at the behest of resisting against an apartheid regime are going to be viewed differently than being one of the fucking war crimes, the war criminals on the side of the apartheid regime. But having said that, yes, that is what needs to happen. Now, I personally think that is also incredibly difficult to ever implement. But there is no other way out of this, in my opinion. There's just no other way out of this. So if you ask me what I think should be done, that's what I believe. Truth and reconciliation, reparations for all Palestinians that have had their land and homes stolen from them, a right to return for all Palestinians, and a singular secular state. The thing that obviously stops this from happening is the fear that Israelis have, Israeli society has, specifically Israeli Jews by and large, that this would mean that there are more Palestinians there and more non-Jews there than Jewish citizens. And therefore, they will democratically do the same thing that Israel's been doing to the Palestinians for the past 76 years. They will forcibly repress and oppress and destroy and kill and ethnically cleanse all Jews in the region. That has not ever happened throughout history, with one exception, which was the Haitian Revolution. That has never happened throughout history. That did not happen in the abolition of slavery, which is like probably the closest comparison that you can present in terms of the 76 years of occupation. I'm going to come off as a flat earther, but I don't think the polls are accurate on how Israelis feel. They're just libs who are slow as going, more and more broke. Shit's expensive, man. I can't even afford the top of the hours. Okay, well, don't worry. I don't run top of the hour ad breaks any longer anyway. But yeah. I mean, the Haitians didn't enslave the white people. They killed them. Yes, even with Haiti, that's an oversimplification. I agree. But I'm saying that like mass violence in the aftermath of a revolution historically has only happened in one instance, one successful slave revolt, which was the Haitian Revolution. The Nat Turner Rebellion took place in the United States of America, but in the aftermath of the abolition of slavery, what happened? Were there roaming gangs of newly freed black men and women that were massacring and enslaving white people? No, it didn't happen. It didn't happen in Algeria. No, it did not happen in Algeria. That's not a comparison either. It did not happen in Algeria. People voluntarily left Algeria because they did not want to fucking live in Algeria. And it didn't happen in apartheid South Africa, and it didn't happen in Ireland either. But the reason why I use the abolition of slavery is because that is one of the like closest one of the closest systematized versions of harm that is like that's genocidal, close to a genocide, or in some ways might even be considered worse, right? That's the reason why I use that as an example. What usually ends up happening in this process is that like the same violent, rabid settler groups will basically continue doing clan-style violence upon the Palestinians. And they need to be dealt with through the criminal justice system. That's it. That is the most likely outcome here.
This is not empowering Gaza. Right now, we should bring back the hostages, and it includes ending the war, and we must work with it.
Hasan, couldn't these settlers just fall under the leadership of a new Palestinian state? No, dude. They would never that would never happen. That is what is supposed to happen right now. Like the Palestinian position right now, the Hamas position on this, and the Palestinian resistance position on this is 1967 boundaries, okay? Which is not objectionable. That is appropriate. That's the basis of the two-state solution. How will you get to the 1967 boundaries? That means 750,000 Israeli Jews, some of the most rabid, some of the most right-wing, some of the most insane members of Israeli society that are violent expansionists, exterminationists, that basically are the Jewish KKK, okay? Those guys are going to leave? No, of course not. And Israel weaponizes them anyway. While the broader Israeli society pre-October 7 might have looked at these settlers as welfare queens who are just like living off government dollars as they suffer. You know, liberal Israeli society hates the settlers because they're uneducated, filthy, whatever the fuck they say in Israel, okay? You know, look to Ethan Klein's earlier vlogs from Israel to find out more about what liberal Zionists in Israeli society thought about fucking West Bank settlers. He was, you know, way more aggressive in the way that he talked about West Bank settlers than I have been, okay? Those guys are not fucking leaving, and the Israeli government knows that they're not going to leave. The Israeli government has sent them there. The Israeli government uses them to create valid security concerns for our citizens. That's the whole point.
National community and with all the partners that we have in order to find a way to oust Hamas from Gaza. Palestinians, Hamas. This must be done, but the priority now must be hostages first.
We're not going to leave our sons and grandchildren to deal with their sons and grandchildren. We're going to end this now.
How? How are you going to end it?
You're going to conquer Gaza.
You're not going.
We're going to conquer Gaza, and we're going to work together with our American allies in starting the Trump plan for
ethnic cleansing. But a lot of people would say.
A lot of people would say, I don't care about what a lot of people would say. I care about what we say. I care about our interests.
I know that today, in Western culture, people don't want to win. They think that if they'll pay the bully, he will leave us alone. Well, I have news for you. This bully is not going to leave us alone. He's here, and he's here to stay, and he will do everything he can to destroy Israel. We will not allow that to happen.
A lot of people would say Israel's the bully. They're the greater force, and they're the ones.
Only people with a broken moral compass can say that Israel is the bully after the massacre of October 7.
God damn, dude. Holy shit.